We'll say, wow. Hi. Welcome to the June 17th meeting of the Norfolk Select Board. I am joined tonight by my colleagues Thais Hickman and Kevin Roach, and I'd like to start by welcoming you, asking you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we start with public comment, I wanted to talk just for a little minute, if you'll indulge me, about Jim Lehan. He has been on, I think, every committee and he's a lifetime of service to the town of Norfolk, and just adding the years in the committees is enough. But I wanted to tell a personal story about Jim and I. Jim was on the select board and then off the select board, and I was on the select board, and so our first time together, we weren't best friends right at the beginning. We had a bumpy start with each other, kind of mutually bumpy, and we worked together for 3 years. And as those 3 years went on, we really grew to have so much respect for each other. And I think we modeled so nicely how government should work. His ideas and my ideas often conflicted with each other, but our respect for each other helped us find that middle that was best for the town of Norfolk. And I have so much appreciation for the process that we went through, your willingness to trust me, and your dedication to this community that is so, I'm gonna have to stop talking so that I don't get weepy. But I want to thank you for your service, and we have a plaque for you. Can I turn it over to Justin before I read the plaque?
Yeah, sure. Jim probably dislikes all this stuff as much as I do as we transition, so I'm not going to talk too long here for Jim. But Jim, I just want to acknowledge the hard work that we've done since we've been on the board, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. When you became chair, very quickly things changed for the community. We worked extremely closely and hard regarding that. And I remember one of the things, it's a good image of, it was an interview, and the image was you and I walking away together. And I feel over this past year, we've worked so closely together. I really appreciate your viewpoint, and you said we may not agree on everything, but your leadership, your passion for community, and doing the best for the community, this should be commended. So thank you, Jim, for your leadership, and thank you for working for me this past year and getting to know you personally as well. You're a great person. Thank you.
And before you read the plaque, I also just want to echo, we haven't worked together at all, but you used to be my neighbor, so I do recall seeing you guys walking your dogs down our street. And again, just want to thank you for your service to the town. You've put in a lot of years with this town, or for this town, and I think that's to be commended. And we appreciate all of your service and the dedication that you and your wife continue to give to the town. So I just want to add to that. Thank you.
And I'd like to say thank you for your many years of service as a selectman and all the other boards and everything. I'm sure Anita will do a much better job saying thank you, and be much longer too.
So Jim, in grateful appreciation, the town of Norfolk wishes to express sincere gratitude, and those are not just words. Sincere gratitude to you for giving so much of your time and talent to the citizens of Norfolk in your many years serving on the select board and the other town committees. Your dedication to the community will forever be remembered.
Don't you dare get me on it, too. Thanks, Leah.
Golfing.
Well, it's the motorboats. If I'm sailing it, it means I have a problem.
Do you want to say anything? Of course
Well,
you do.
you were going to give him this as well, right?
Yes. Oh, I was going to give him this.
Oh, no, I know who I am.
Yeah, well, no, that's today you do. Yeah.
If I may, just a couple of words?
Yes.
It's very unusual to sit on this side of the table. But it's been my first to Justin, hey, best of luck. They're getting a tremendous leader. I will miss you. You've been very good for this town. I will miss you very much. And Amanda, I have to say something about you. You're incredible. You're in the 3 years I've had the pleasure of working with you, you're a yeoman in your efforts and delightful to work with, so thank you for all of that. And to the board, thank you very much. It's very gracious of you to say such kind words. I will be very brief because you have business to do, and I get to go home and you have to stay. I think that's the way it works now. Community service is something and by the way, I'm one of a long list of people that have donated a lot of time and effort to the benefit of this town. It's not just me, it's a long list. And they all deserve recognition in some way or another, because this town would flounder without the help of volunteers. But when I had the pleasure of speaking to King Philip graduates this year, and I talked to them about life's lessons. When you get to be my age, you have a lot of life lessons. Yeah. But the one that I think I'd just like to share is, I was in the corporate world, and I wanted to venture through the chain to, reach the pinnacle, and I ended up running the financial services company. And there was a point where I realized that leadership has nothing to do with power or the title in your business card or the plaque in front of your name. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing. And fortunately, I was smart enough to figure that out. And so when I went into public service, it had nothing to do with that. It's all about leadership. To me, is exemplifying wisdom and kindness. And that's what I've tried to do. Every time in every board I've served, it's been trying to do the right thing. It's not about power. And so I work with a lot of people. I've enjoyed all. I have not had the pleasure. But of all of the select board members I have had the pleasure of working with, have all been great people, all trying to do the right thing. And so if I can leave any message, wisdom and kindness. That's, to me, the definition of leadership. So thank you all very much. This is very gracious of you. You and I have not had any chance to work together, probably in your best interest. But thank you. And Justin, we'll miss you, and I will miss the board.
We'll miss you too.
I will miss it. So
Thank you.
But we move on. So again, thank you. Very gracious of you.
Thank
Much
you.
appreciated. I'll say good night.
Thank you. Have a glass of wine for me.
Pardon?
Have a glass of wine for me.
Maybe two. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And now we are going to open it up for public comment. If anybody has anything that they'd like to share that is related to the town, we'd be able to hear that. We can't reply, but we can hear. Any public comment? And nobody on the computer? Is it anybody? I don't even have the select board Zoo today on the computer.
Yeah, it's not.
It's on that one? I don't see it on ours.
Yeah, right. It was earlier.
There we go. It's coming now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Somehow was off.
Thank you. So we're moving to our first order of business is to consider approval of an amended select board fees. Do you want to start us, Justin?
Yep. This is, as we mentioned at our previous select board meeting, we made a commitment. We talked about this previously. Since we've been here, we've looked at various fees in various departments. It's been well over 6 years that we've looked at fees in the select board office. The board had discussed just taking some time to review the fees and the proposed fees. We did make an adjustment based on a request to add some percentages at the bottom of the spreadsheet, so hopefully that accomplished what was asked of us. And yes, for the board to decide if they like to move forward with these adjusted fees or, continue to wait, whatever you would like to do there. I did mention previously, these fees are generally around the average too. And, some of our other communities have looked at their fees recently, so I think these are pretty reasonable fees, particularly as we're looking at additional revenue, trying to adjust with the revenue gap that we have. I think this is probably a prudent step to take for the community and for the board, but leave it to you all.
Excellent. Any questions?
About the taxi hacker vehicle license.
So, I guess what's your question?
Why is it going down so much?
The reason why is because, one, I think the board is going to have to take a look at this as their overall select board policy.
Okay.
The policy that we have, the Hackney policy, it's antiquated. We don't really have taxis. And for example, I'll give you a real life example. There was a business that was looking to do business in Norfolk,
Yeah.
to do taxi services, but because our cost was exponentially higher than any of the surrounding communities, they're like, all right, well, I can do service here anyway. I'm just going to go to another community, register there, and do community service, and have my business registered there. So as I said, if you look at the average for the communities, it's $63 for this license. We're proposing to bring it down to that amount for the time being, but you're probably going to have to look even further. But I would look at that overall as a policy as well.
I had the opposite question for that about why it was so high, because we were so high compared to the neighbors, and I wondered if it didn't seem that our neighbors had an initial and a renewal, and I was wondering if we should just say straight 75 or straight 100.
All your calls, this is just recommendations to put it on the table for you all. I think no matter what you decide today, you're going to want to look at that policy, because that was one of the policies that I had put in mind for addressing this summer. We have a proposal for that, but I'm going to let your next town administrator help guide the discussion with you all. But either one of those, whether doing nothing, whether bringing it down lower, all of them are reasonable, because we are higher than a lot of communities.
I mean, I think it would be in our best interest to bring it down and to get taxi service in here, because Uber does come into town, but it's a lot more expensive. So it would be nice to have a local taxi company serving our community.
We do have Norfolk Taxi, but to have more
To have
competitive.
more.
Yes.
More options.
So my thought was 75. There is one community that Walpole charges 100, but we've been overcharging for so long. I thought maybe 75 it's quite a bit down, but I think that seemed fair and reasonable. If that seems too low, we could go to 100. I'm flexible, based on what your opinion
I
is.
think 100 is a fair amount, because it was 150 then with per vehicle, so the 100 straight, and it doesn't matter how many vehicles they have, so.
Right. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So we'll change that one to 100.
Yeah.
And then are there any other questions or discussion?
The only other one that's a huge jump is the club license for alcohol. So is that for venues to have a license for, a liquor license for events? Is that what that one is?
Club license, all alcoholic beverage, you have on-premise, you have off-premise, you have wine off-premise. The club license, I have it. I'm blinking for just a moment. Give me a second. Let me tell you exactly what it is. Give me a second.
I mean, when's the last time we adjusted these?
A long time.
Yeah, I mean, so we have.
I couldn't even find exactly when we did it, but I know, and I confirmed with Judith, we haven't done it. Judith in our office does most of the licensing, annual renewals. We haven't adjusted since she's been here, so it's been over 6 years.
Yeah, so we haven't kept up with inflation. We haven't kept up,
No.
period. So it seems like a huge jump, but it's really not that much. And it, like you said, it's still well below the average for other towns, which is 1,200.
Well below.
Yeah.
Like, we could almost go up more.
Yeah, we could.
I'm open to saying 750.
I would want to know exactly what it's for. So is it like, so if I host an event, as
Oh.
an example, at the Grange, and I need a
Oh.
liquor license, or what?
Oh, that's a one-day
That's a
permit,
one-day,
yeah.
yeah.
So
that's a
what is the
one-day.
club license?
I think it's conflated. That's a good question. I want to give you the exact thing, and I want to give you from ABCC what that really entails. We haven't seen a lot of club license items. I think what we've mostly dealt with in Norfolk is all alcoholic, obviously the on-premise and off-premise. So I think we can follow up with you on that one.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we can go higher. We would still be below the average for all of our surrounding neighbors. So,
Yeah, I think the only question would be, does this affect, like, your average Joe citizen, or does this affect your organizations, right?
yeah, that's why I would want some more clarity on what exactly that one is.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what, I mean, you guys can approach it in however manner you want to. If you were to do adjustment on the fees today, maybe you hold off on the club license once you get more information, if you'd like to do that, or you can hold off entirely. It's your decision. But if you were to do that, you could hold off on that one. Because I have it, but I want to give you the exact thing. I want to give you, so you understand, but also give you any examples of any of these in town as well, so you know what effect it's having. And I don't have that information available to you.
Well, I just from my quick searching, I believe it's a private club, so like a golf club or a
I just don't know if there's
nonprofit, but
anyone, I don't know if there's anyone in town that would think so. I want to get you that information.
Okay.
So I guess I'm all in favor of getting the fees raised as soon as possible, so accepting them all and then holding off on that one. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
So I would entertain a motion.
Is it worded here?
One other question for you before you do take the motion. When we did adjust fees previously, we had implemented them as part of our budget process, so we generally had these fees implemented in July 1, which is closely coming. I don't know if you guys want to do that as well, but
That makes sense, just beginning with fiscal year 2026?
Yes.
That makes sense to me.
So make a motion to approve amended select board fees minus the increase on the club fee,
Effective,
effective July 1st, 2025.
perfect.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any further, we're supposed to do discussion before we voted. Sorry, I'm a little bit backwards today. So thank you very much. The next one is number 4, abate community opioid abatement funds. Justin?
this is another continuation item from the previous select board meeting. We do have Mr. Gilmeister of Gilly's House here as well. We did invite MPS as well, but you've heard from Safe Coalition, and now you have Mr. Gilmeister who can speak to Gilly's House and their proposal if you'd like to hear from him.
Excellent. Do you want to come up to a microphone?
Sure. This is a special chair I'm going to sit in here while he's gone.
Jim's chair.
So Gilly's House basically just had north of 250 men pass through since we've opened it up. And we run about a 50% rate of guys who stay sober in there and leave sober, which is a massive number compared to what the rest of the world does. We have 2 basic expense streams that we have to deal with. We provide a lot of transitional living training. For instance, we bring in a therapist who does group once a week. We bring in somebody who does kind of a meditation goal-setting session twice a month. We bring in somebody who teaches cooking. So we do all those kinds of things because most of these guys, have no skills whatsoever. They've been in jail, or mama or the girlfriend has done it, and they don't even know how to open the door of a refrigerator. It's kind of. So that's one set. And then the other set is the physical property. The building is 178 years old. It was a family residence till the end of World War II when it became a nursing home. It went empty in 2000, and it had been empty for 17 years when we bought it. So we have spent a lot of money. We replaced all the windows in the building. We insulated it. We had it painted. We just finished redoing the entire deck, which underneath was completely rotted out. And so right now, we have the leach field of the septic system is slowly failing. And we have to address that. I mean, it's a Board of Health issue. So that's the one thing that I'm really here for today, is to try and augment the funds that we need to do that. The work is going to be done by a Norfolk company, J. Hochman. J. Hochman. They're working with an engineer right now to see what it is. So we have a rough estimate that it's going to cost us about $40,000 to actually rebuild the leach field. We're just going to tear it out, redo it all together, and do it right. It was done on the cheap when we bought the building because money was tight. And so that's one of the big things that we need to do at this point.
And are any of the surrounding towns helping subsidize the cost?
I was in a meeting with Rentham this morning, who is stepping into stage 2 of theirs. They're opening up the application process July 1st. Franklin is giving us a grant out of these funds that we'll get after July 1st, and then they've also promised us a matching grant for next year. So they did it in a 2-year cycle instead of a 1 year. Otherwise, no.
Okay.
90% of the cities and towns have not allocated any of these funds. They're kind of sitting, and they don't want to do anything wrong, and I understand that. But they also they're not doing anything. So, for instance, Medway is now going into their 3rd year, and they've not allocated any money whatsoever. Because they can't figure out a process, they can't figure out what's fair and equitable. So that's where they're at.
And what are the population that you serve? So you mentioned roughly 200 men a year come through?
250.
250?
Not a year. That's lifetime.
Lifetime, okay.
Yeah.
And
we have 22 beds.
Okay.
We take people from incarceration. We take people from drug treatment programs. We very seriously screen for men that are ready and committed to developing long-term recovery. So I don't take people off the street. I want them to go through detoxification and some kind of treatment program, or incarceration, which is essentially the same thing. But that's why we have the success rate that we do, is because we focus on men that are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're finally ready to actually do what it takes. It's a lot of hard work for them, but we have a great success rate because we're finding those guys and then giving them the structure, giving them the support. For instance, the house gives them all their food, all their toiletries. We don't have coin-op laundry machines. Wi-Fi's included. Everything's all included in the little house fee that they pay, because we feel like if we can eliminate a lot of the little stresses, like scratching for quarters to put in a laundry machine, which is horrible, we can have them focus on the big thing, which is their sobriety.
That's excellent. And the folks that are residents, are they coming from mostly this area, or you take people from
We have
the
had
entire
people,
state?
they're mostly from this area,
Okay.
but we've had people from 74 cities and towns in the state, 5 other states, and England, 1 from England. So, but yeah, because geography is important, they want to be near family a lot of the time. So that drives me crazy, because I think you should go where you're going to succeed versus the geography, but I get it.
I think I've asked enough questions.
No,
Anyone else?
Any questions?
An open invitation to come look at us, do a tour anytime you want to. We're really proud of the place, and we love doing tours.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that we're so fortunate to have a resource like yours in the proximity of our neighborhood. So we have the difficult job now of allocating not enough to everybody, but I don't want you to interpret whatever outcome the 3 of us come to as a lack of support for what you're doing, and
I
we're
would
so
never.
grateful.
The town has been really good to us. The residents of the town have been incredible to us. I mean, it's Rentham and Norfolk have kind of adopted us. All the furniture in the house has been donated, and all of it's been done by 90% these 2 towns. So I'm never going to think that.
Okay, we will do our best, but thank you so much for taking your time this evening to coming in, and we're really grateful for the work that you're doing for our young men. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good?
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
So now I'm going to summarize what I think I understand, and then we can wrestle. We have $20,000 to allocate. Safe Coalition has asked for 20, Gilly House has asked for 20, and the schools have asked for $8,789. So we can do, put it into pies and do a little bit to everybody. We could do all in one place.
I mean, they're all necessary services. The school's asking for a social worker, funds to help subsidize the cost of a social worker. And obviously, we just heard from Gilly's House, we heard from Safe Coalition last week. So, I mean, I'm inclined to say we should split it equally, because I think each is a worthy cause, and I'm happy to talk about what we should do, but.
So I was leaning toward, and I'm also open, I'm not set in stone on it, I was leaning toward fully funding the school's position, because giving them part of that money is tricky in terms of how do you have somebody who's .08 or something like that is tricky. And then I was thinking about, I struggled again because Safe Coalition is doing such good work and Gilly House is doing such good work, and I sort of started thinking about the impact in terms of number of people. And so I thought if the schools get $8,789, give $5,000 to Gilly House, and then the remainder $6,211 to Safe Coalition. But maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe you see it just splitting it 3 ways equally. I'm open to more
I mean,
conversation.
I'm in favor of fully funding the school request. I think we should also be cognizant of, like, I was asking how many residents from Norfolk does each organization serve, right? And we want to make sure our dollars, the town dollars, are going to the town. First and foremost, obviously, I'm in support of funding all 3 of these organizations.
Yes, I wish we could. And for people watching, this money doesn't come out of your like our taxes are not paying for this money. This is money that was given to us as part of an opioid settlement money that has been allocated to Norfolk to distribute. So this doesn't cost anybody their tax money, or this isn't raising up our tax rate or anything like that. This is money that we've been given as part of a settlement that we have the privilege of distributing out into the community. And like the gentleman said, we have been choosing to allocate it as soon as we can and get it busy to work for people. So I'm open. We can go third. We can. I feel fairly strongly that the schools, we kind of need to fully fund that, or do all of it or half of it, because otherwise I think it gets super tricky.
Yeah, I would just add one thing, and just for context for all of you all, at the April meeting, when you did the last allocation for town meeting, we funded the Norfolk schools, the .1, so this would be
The second
.2 of coverage with that. And just so you have this information too, our allocation so far, SAFE has had about $21,000 in funds allocated to them as part of this process. Gilly's House is at $17,000. Norfolk Public Schools is at $15,789, and Healthy KP is at $4,000. So to date, the town has allocated $57,789, and I anticipate you're probably going to look at this again in the fall. You probably have about $50,000 to allocate to them as well. Just so
I'm
you
sorry,
have-
how much did Norfolk Public Schools receive?
So far is $15,789, but the most recent allocation we did was to Healthy KP and to Norfolk Public Schools. And yeah, it was the same ask.
The combination of the two would go to somebody, at least one, would pay for 1 day a week. Like a .1 is half a day a week, right? So .2 is 1 day a week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. The schools have received the least as compared to the other 2 thus far, so I'm fine with funding them at 100% of their ask, and then potentially splitting
The difference,
remainder.
splitting the remainder between Gilly House and say equal between those two? You want to do the math?
I really
11,200,
don't want to
which,
do the math, but I'll
no,
do the
it's
math.
okay. You can split it in the notes. Can you split it for us? So
I'll give you
8,000.
I'll give you the figures exactly.
The finance guru will do the math.
Because you also have, it's actually, you have 20,211, and I think you probably want to just get all the funds
All of it
there.
out, yes.
Yes.
So yeah, if you did the full ask for Norfolk Public Schools, then you could allocate $5,711 to SAFE and Gillies, and that's taking up the $20,211.
Yep, that seems really good to me. How do you feel about that?
That's good. Thais can make the motion on it.
Okay, because it's a complex motion. All right, so I would like to make a motion to approve the use of the opioid settlement funds in full for Norfolk Public Schools at $8,789 and at $5,711 equally, or total for Safe Coalition, and $5,711 for Gillies House.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Now we are going to number 6, approval of boards.
No, number 5.
Number 5,
Yep.
Mirror Lake. I'm sorry, Mirror Lake. Mirror Lake.
Yeah, I don't know if the board wants to do this, but I did ask, it was asked to have Blair present for this meeting, and I know they're doing paving this evening. I don't think they've completed their work yet, Blair, and he's overseeing it. I don't know if you want to talk with Blair now while you have him, or do you want to wait? It's up to you guys. It's up to you what you want to do.
We don't need to wait. We can talk with him now. Is he on a further agenda item too? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's just a little bit down below.
The surge contracts.
Yeah, he's after these in the appointment,
So let's go ahead and do those ones now. That's fine. Skipping ahead to number 7 is what you're saying.
8. Yeah.
Number 8. Oh, yes, come on up. Skipping ahead to number 8.
We want to make sure we get that paving done properly for this house.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get him back out on the
15-hour day yesterday, and we are still at it tonight.
We'll be excited to have it done. Thank you.
Me too.
Awesome. So will you summarize for us?
So as a continued discussion from last week regarding the project manager position, or how that ends up being configured, I think that the past 48 hours here is a classic example of why this is so important. Since yesterday morning, I had 15 hours yesterday trying to do everything that's in the field, making sure that projects go on as they should be. And then again today, went home last night at 10 o'clock, up again this morning at 6, and at it all again today. Currently, as we speak, I have 77 emails in my inbox. And that was after about a dozen emails this morning and about a dozen calls to take care of the things that absolutely had no choice but to be done today. So I think that further stresses the fact that I'm having difficulty being in 2 places at once. And obviously I'm not putting in 15-hour days every day, but it is a, microcosm of how there are things to be done in the field and at the same time things to be done outside and inside. So I would ask that hopefully we be able to do something with the project manager position.
Thank you. So I feel like we have 2 choices as a board. We have one choice to fill Barry's position as it is, or the other choice is to approve the reclassification of the DPW assistant director. So thoughts?
Well, I personally, I would just like to hold off on the position. I know he's extremely busy right now, but that's with all the paving. But we're definitely going to run out of money real soon for the paving, and the paving's not going to be a long, ongoing thing. Right now, like he said, he's very extremely with doing the paving, but we do have that $1.4 million deficit, and I'd rather see not fill a position than hire someone and have to lay him off, because then we got the unemployment as well.
So we have budgeted for the position that is there. So it is in the budget, and nobody's being laid off because our fiscal year 2026 budget has already been approved by the town. Like, the town has approved that budget. So this would not be a laying off, because this is a position that we budgeted for that's in the budget. I think what we're saying, and I hear what you're saying, but I think what we're saying is, do we want to replace Barry, or do we want to restructure it, which has some savings to the community? I looked at the memo, is about $30,000 in savings and a reduction of a vehicle. So that's my,
And if I
Yes.
could add, I would say that, granted, there's paving here, but paving is going to turn into now further work, and, the Seekonk Street Bridge project isn't done. You're going to end up moving from that into crack sealing, road sealing, and then line striping. Like, there's always going to be somewhere, I'm picking up all the work that Barry had to do with stormwater. I'm working through all of those technicalities of, today I had to, there was a blast permit that the fire chief called me about that I had to sit down and breeze through a 136-page blast report that couldn't wait because they want to blast tomorrow. Those are the types of things that crop up in and every day that a project manager would have the time to look at as
Yeah.
I juggle other items, so.
So I think, to Anita's point, this position is currently vacant, so we haven't voted on as a board, and the town hasn't voted on keeping this position vacant. So it's either we fill it at the current salary, or we reclass it and fill it at a lower grade. Those are really the options. I don't think we have an option not to fill it, if I'm
it's part of the budget that came to the town. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, it's the budget that the town meeting did vote on. I understand Kevin's viewpoint too, though, in the sense that what he said is if you were to fill that position and if the town were to determine they wanted to reduce that position, there's a lot of ifs there. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to be here for it. That potentially that would be unemployment benefits associated with it. But the fact is, and what you're asking me is, was this budget in the fiscal year 26 budget? Yes, and it was budgeted at Barry's rate. And
So then we have three choices. Choice one is don't fill it. Choice two is we fill it as it is, and choice three is we accept the proposal for
have
filling it.
three options.
Three options. So there's three options, not two options. One option is not to fill it.
Because I think at the end of next year, when the budget, that payroll is going to be there. So if we want to reduce the payroll, then the person is going to be laid off. And I think that right now, when the position is vacant, is the time not to fill it. If we want to try to, we need to get that $1.4 million deficit down. The free cash isn't going to be there forever.
I agree with that, and that's something that we're going to do intentional work on. Like, I don't think we're going to solve that in this minute right here.
I understand.
I think we have opportunities to be proactive in the decisions that we make. But I'm wondering is if right here, right now, saying that historically there were three people, and then we went to two, and two didn't work, and then we went back to three, to now say, okay, we're going to go to two again. I guess I think.
After the town already voted to approve it.
Right.
That's my struggle.
I think that we have,
Well, I think the town voted to fund the overall budget of the highway department. I think they weren't funding each individual position.
and we have held off before on other
Yeah.
positions from refilling. You're right,
Yeah.
we have done that.
But based on conversations that I've had with residents, they're very unhappy with the roads. That's the number one thing I kept hearing over and over again. So I feel like if we don't fill this DPW position, we're
the-
going to have a lot of more unhappy people.
Okay, well, after this small stretch of paving here, is the paving money gone, or are we going to be able to continue paving other roads that need repaving?
A lot of that's going to depend on how Chapter 90 comes down. That normally that money we don't see that money until June. And right now as of this morning, it's not in the account. So I don't know where that money's going to be. Normally, in the history of the town, we've done a spring session of paving and a fall session of paving because of the way that it fiscally turns out. So there's a possibility, as we always have. We usually do paving in October, sometimes as early as September. It's just going to depend on where we are fiscally. And then we're going to have some decisions to be made about downtown. If downtown sewer is going to be a thing, whether we want to hang on to some of that money to do downtown next year or how that's going to play out. So there's definitely some decisions to be made. But I've wanted to do downtown for a while now, but we've been holding off because of the sewer discussion. And that's going to take, $500,000 when it's all said and done. But again, that's going to require time to put that together. Everything in downtown is buried, which means that, crosswalk repairs, all of that, sidewalk concerns, and paving, paramount, Depends on what happens with sewer. If sewer comes up from Dunkin' Donuts, that's going to be a thing that's going to have to be dealt with. Because it's going to go right up through the center of town, and again, everything is buried. So there's a lot of decisions to be made.
How long have we operated with 3 filled positions?
So in the spring of 2020, I was hired in 2019. When I became the director from the superintendent's position, there was a discussion in the year 2020 that we try it for 1 year to see whether or not it worked. In the spring of 2021, in discussions with the town administrator, it was not working clearly. And that's when we budgeted and hired a superintendent in 2021 and have had one since.
I hear your concerns. I think they're real. I think I would rather use our budget process that we haven't started yet to unpack each department and go ahead. I like the creative solution here that saves the town some money and a vehicle. I think that's a benefit to us, and I'm feeling like that is a good option for us. What do you think?
I understand what you're saying, but I still struggle with it. I think, we have foremen that maybe can take on a little more responsibility. In the past, when he was saying that we had these other positions, they were more working. Wasn't Paul Vito in charge of maintenance? He wasn't?
I wasn't here when Paul Vito was here.
Okay. He was one of the superintendents, and he was in charge of vehicle maintenance. And there weren't 3 positions at the top, just as bosses, more or less. They were more working, and Tommy Benedetto was a superintendent, but he was also working in charge of the cemetery as well.
So this position wouldn't be supervisory. That's how it's saving us money, right? They're not, this isn't a supervisory,
A field position.
Yes.
just like what you're describing. Like, it is not a supervising other people position. That's how I understood.
He's a project manager. He would be working?
As a project manager, you'll be overseeing permitting, some of the infield recording, like things. Seekonk Street is a great example of that. Like
Yeah, but
somebody's gotta
it
out
would
there
be
to-
in a supervisory role, correct?
Not over other employees. He would report to me.
He would be supervising the project, not the people.
Correct.
Whereas right now, what we have is a superintendent that is overseeing staff.
Correct.
So then this new project manager position would not have that responsibility, but would be out in the field, and they would not be eligible for overtime, which would also.
Or a vehicle, correct.
Which would also save us money.
Yes.
So I guess my question to you, Blair, is what happens if we don't do this right now?
Again, there are just not enough hours in the day. That's the problem that I've, and especially, over the last couple of weeks, they're continuing to mount. Residents have become accustomed to a certain level of service. And, when I have to tell somebody it's a week before I can see them, they come to the building and expect that I'm in my office. And so there's an expectation there, and those expectations can certainly be, can be dealt with, but not in a positive light most times, because people, like they do with any service, we've become accustomed to kind of needing and wanting things now, and and the DPW is no different. The DPW covers such a wide variety. Like, fire and, there are residents in town that may never deal with fire and police their entire lives in town, but the DPW touches every single person in this town, whether it's roads, water, trash, Little Susie's baseball field, stormwater, somehow, some way, a tree falling down. DPW touches every single person in this town every day, and so a lot of times when they don't know where else to turn, that's where they go.
I guess my struggle is, I feel like if we don't fill it, we are reneging on our commitment to the town that voted on the current structure, which is 3 people, and our town budget. And we already know that there are people that are very upset with the level of service that they're getting. Blair's said it, I've heard it.
I've heard it.
So I feel like if we don't fill it, we're gonna have more of that. So I'm with you, Kevin, like, I wanna save this town money as well, and I think that this is obviously not a long-term fix, but it does save us some money right now. It gets us another person, which we need, to be out in the field. And as Anita mentioned, I think when we get to the budgeting process, if there are additional changes that we can make within DPW or any other department, then we can do it at that time. But yeah, that's where I'm struggling here.
I think this doesn't shut the door on that conversation that you're interested in having that's important about how do we save money in every department, right? And I think we need to do that process in a way that is consistent and intentional, and not right now in the face of this. But just if we decide to go ahead with this position, it doesn't mean that we're going to do this position for all time, because we may throughout that process decide that there needs to be a reduction somewhere, and then there is a consequence, I understand. But I think we need to do that in the work of the process, not here in this moment. And this saves us $30,000 on a car and overtime, and I think that is a good start. It's not a perfect answer, but I think it's a good start.
And I also just worry about burnout too, like, we have people working back-to-back 15-hour days, that's not good, you know, and then we have to go find someone else, and we lose service levels, and we lose, and there's turnover, you know, there's time that it takes to attract a new candidate, hire a new candidate, so I just, you know.
Another option,
You speak to it.
another option could be that we could classify the position as a temporary position, post it as a temporary position. It would still be full-time, they'd still be eligible for benefits and whatnot, but letting them know that, you know, effective, the position may end
July 1st.
June 30th, 2026.
So one thing that I want to add, and I mentioned it last time, I think no matter what in this situation, the climate, the job market is very tough for municipalities to hire, right? And our process and what Kelly's process, we'll be honest with whoever we're interviewing what our situation is. Someone who's valuing, they may not want to come here because they're going to have a level of expertise and maybe leaving another position. They may not want to. I don't necessarily know this is going to be the easiest position to fill no matter what, right? But I think we do have some options, considering if we do fill or whatever, you can put in the language that this is a temporary position for a year or two, however you want to do it. I think you allow Kelly, your town administrator, to take that lead there. That gives you your flexibility. That kind of addresses a little bit of your concern about long-term. That's how I probably would navigate, and then you can hopefully hire someone, at least get you through this year, and then you can evaluate. And you're not on the risk for the unemployment aspect that Kevin brought up there.
Do you
So there's
think-
ways to navigate that.
Would that limit our candidate pool, do you think?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think your candidate pool is going to be limited no matter what, because, like you said,
It's a niche role.
Yeah.
Yes.
And depending on the range of salary, it will be difficult to fill. And then tacking on temporary to that is going to scare off a lot of candidates, to be frank.
Right.
But
And the way a lot of these roles have been, you know, nowadays, you used to be able to post a DPW job and get 20 candidates for 2 spots. That doesn't happen anymore. Now you, for all intents and purposes, it's guerrilla marketing. You have to go find the guy you're looking for. If you want a mechanic, go park outside of an automotive dealership somewhere at noon, you know, at 3 o'clock. Like, you have to find the guy you're looking for. So this potential employee most likely works for an engineering firm somewhere and will have to be picked, you know, picked for that. And, you know, it's a big community. I know a lot of people. But that's the sort of way you have to go about it. It's not that you're going to post this and, you know, 2 or 3 of these potential employees are going to walk through the door. You got to go find them. And so, you know, especially when somebody else is employed somewhere, to put a temporary label on it
It's tricky.
is a flag.
But there is the reality, like Kevin is talking about, there is the reality that the
That we
department
might
might
have
be
to-
affected.
Right.
So then the only risk to that would be being responsible for unemployment then for that candidate, right?
Yeah, if the decision was to fill that position, and then a decision as part of your budget process was to let that person go, and they're in there, yeah, you're on the hook for the unemployment part. That's why I would say that I think there's ways to navigate that concern that I'm sure that Kelly, along with Blair, can sort of navigate and address that issue for you. I know how I would handle it, but I'm not going to speak to it. I'm not going to be here for it. I know that they can do it.
Maybe there's better language, like the temporary tag is
Yeah,
the
the temporary, I
red
wouldn't
flag.
say temporary thing,
Right,
because
maybe
they're
there's-
gonna
there's
immediately see
language.
that and say, all right, well, this is not gonna be a full-time thing, but your disclosure language in the
Right.
bottom of the job description can identify, and then as you're talking with these candidates,
Right.
just like when I was talking with Kelly, when she was saying, this is our situation, this is what it may be like. That's what you have to honestly do for that employee. Expect them.
Agreed.
That's how I would.
And the other thing I would say just about the budgeting process and making cuts is I don't necessarily think it's equitable for us to just say, okay, DPW, you're gonna have to cut right now. I think that all of the departments, we should interview all of the departments and talk to all of the department heads about where we can potentially save and, engage in that process holistically.
Yes.
Because otherwise,
I agree 100%. The only reason I was just saying this is because it's a vacant position.
Yeah.
If someone else had another vacant position, I'd feel the same way about that. So I'm not just saying we're going to lay somebody off. The position is vacant, and now was the time. If we weren't going to fill it, like I said, there's no unemployment against us.
Yes.
yeah, and I think what we have to weigh is not filling it going to be more costly in the long run with, just in terms of the backlog of work, and also, are we at risk of potentially losing employees because we're asking them to put in more hours now because we've decided to leave this position vacant? So I think that's really what we need to grapple with right now. And I still feel like the town approved the budget and they expect a certain level of service from DPW, so if we don't fill it and things go awry, it's a little tricky.
So I'm inclined to approve the reclassification and understanding that we're going to be reexamining all departments' budgets and through a process, so.
So in the next couple of months or 2 or 3 months, he might be coming in and.
And we'll
Yeah,
look
right.
together.
He might
We'll-
be able to find other ways in his budget to save money and to keep the position.
And we'll involve the community in the process so that we can ask questions and really do that work, but do it consistently for all departments, not just.
No, like I said, the position was vacant. I didn't,
Yep, cool.
And I think each year as I go through the budget process, last year my budget was 0.1% and this year it was 1.1%. So I think there's a good faith effort
Yes.
there to nip and tuck as best, and that's over, a couple of years when the economy has gone south. So, I think there's a history there of taking good
agree.
faith efforts to come up, considering that 50% of my budget is salaries and the other 50% is supplies. So, again, I'm more than happy to do as I've always done.
So if we're in agreement, I would accept a motion to reclassify the DPW position. Well, not if we're in agreement, I guess I would accept, I would accept the motion unless we want further discussion.
I guess we're going to have further discussion in a couple of months and see what we can do because we have to get rid of that one floor.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, we do. So
agreed.
I would say September at the latest, hopefully sooner, we'll begin
Right.
that process.
Yeah.
Like Jim said, I agreed with Jim, July 1st is when we need to start looking into it.
I honestly think we should try to have at least 2 meetings a month. I know we don't typically do that in the summer, But if we want to get ahead of this, there's a lot of work to be done, and
So let's talk about that when we get into updates, so that Blair can go.
Get back to work.
Get back to
Pave
work.
in the dark.
That's right. Can get back to
okay.
work.
All right, so yes, I second, or you want to make the motion
You
again?
can, no, she can't. You need to.
Okay. I would like to make the motion to approve the reclassification of the assistant director position to a project manager role in the DPW.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And thank you for paving.
Yes. It'll all be worth it. At
It will be.
least that's what I keep telling myself.
It will be.
Have a good evening.
Okay, so now we're going to Mirror Lake.
This item, as the board knows, in Springtown meeting, town meeting voted to approve the CPC project. This contract is funding the work associated with Norfolk's share of the Mirror Lake project. I just received notification that Rentham executed their contract with them. It has the same language, and Conservation has been in communication with the Mirror Lake group in regards to what our next steps there. The only thing that I would bring up if the board is to approve this contract, which I think you should because you need to do that in order to fulfill town meeting's desire to fund this project, is when you do, and this will be part of my transition memo, when the new town administrator is on, I think there needs to be a point person selected to oversee this project because our conservation agent is going to be on maternity leave. So I think there just needs to be collaboration there. There's a lot of things going on in this project. The contract's been reviewed by a council. I didn't see any issues either, so Rentham's on board.
I only had a question about, at the end, there were two different invoices, one that was a lump sum invoice and I had a question that was confusing to me, one that was T&M and one that was lump sum.
Are you talking about the examples?
The examples, yes, at the back.
So they're just giving you examples of what the contracts could look like. There hasn't been a determination of what we're going to do.
Okay.
It might be a lump sum contract. I think Rantham was fine with doing a lump sum. So these were just examples of what they're going to look like.
So we are not then doing a motion for approving the contract because we don't have a contract?
I would just, I think you should approve the contract.
Authorize the town meeting to approve, authorize the town
Yeah, you could authorize the town administrator, because I don't think we have the actual version that. the
Yeah, I
board
didn't
is.
see.
So I would say authorize the town administrator.
So we would be authorizing the interim town administrator, or should we just say town administrator? Authorizing the town administrator to approve the contract for the Phase 2 Mirror Lake analysis.
Correct.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract for the town administrator to approve for the town administrator to approve the contract for the Phase 2 Mirror Lake analysis.
Second.
All those, any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Number 6, reappointment of boards.
All right, in the board's packet, and I just want to, I mentioned this before, I want to give credit to Judith for the work on doing this. Judith sort of handles in collaboration with, Carol and making sure everything's up to date. Make sure our boards and commissions and the various positions are appointed correctly. So in the board's packet, you have a list of potential appointments for this year. It's color-coded. There's a note there on how you can read this this item and this list. So we're asking for you, as part of the annual process in June, to approve the appointments to the committees that are in yellow. I do want to note specifically that there are 2 other items that we point out. There's the requirement for an MBTA advisory board member. I was the appointment. You can look at your town administrators, you can look at a planning director, you can look at a resident, whatever you want to do. You don't have to make a decision on that tonight, but I do want to put that on your radar that with my transition, that is something that you're going to want to handle later on.
How often does that group meet?
I mean monthly.
Monthly?
And it's important enough. There has been interest from some of the community out for that to the board to consider. I just wanted to bring it up to you. That's something you're going to want to address as a transition. But you have the spreadsheet, and if you decide to do it, it'd be to approve the reappointments based on the yellow, in yellow for just beginning July 1st, 2025.
I have a question about the fire station building committee. So I thought that was being phased out, but I see everyone's requesting a reappointment, so.
Yeah, no, good question. Actually, that one, I think the Norfolk School Building Committee as well, and very good question. So fire station building is, it's done. There's just little things that we need to finish. And so because the fire station building committee made a decision to push out the opening ceremony, there's like little landscaping items. The committee still wants to meet as needed. For example, we canceled the meeting this month because there wasn't really anything for them to do. But until this project's actually complete, you should have the fire station building committee there and in place until that final sort of decision of funds. In addition to that, for example, I know there was a question about like the Norfolk School Building Committee and why that was still in place. When the board appointed that committee, they didn't put a term limit on it, right? And although, the town did vote in the manner it did for the project, theoretically, until the board disbands that committee, you're going to have that reappointment. And I know the last discussion was to have some working group talk about it. So that's something you should put on your radar too, to figure out what that committee looks like in the future. And for the time being, it's to reappoint,
Wouldn't that be just more confusing to reappoint them than disband them or change it afterwards? If the
You guys call. They're not really meeting. They met 3 months ago to, I think, recommend that the town, apply for MSBA funds, but they haven't met since then. That's a board decision. That's your
Well, they
call.
should be meeting, given where,
What's that?
they should meet, given where we are with regards to the grant they submitted and what their plans are now that we know the vote has failed on the school expansion. They should be meeting to propose.
But their
Next steps are.
the charge was to make a proposal. So their charter wasn't about next steps. The charter was to come up with a building proposal to the town. So it could be, I think I'd want to talk to Ingrid before we did do anything, or to Dr. Alardi, but it could be an elegant thing just to disband that group and then have a new charge with a new charter to do exactly what you're saying is what are our next steps? Like, how are we going to respond to this? And maybe make it the working group, or I'm using
Exactly.
air quotes because I'm not
Yeah.
quite confident about what that is, but, so maybe we should invite Ingrid to our next meeting, and we could talk about that.
Yes, because if we receive that state funding, then what are the plans?
Right. I think, let's invite Ingrid, because, and to talk about that committee, because either way, the no expiration date is not usually how we do
Correct.
committee work, so that needs to be cleaned up.
Yep.
And then I noticed that the master plan committee isn't on here, but then I checked with Judith, and that was officially disbanded on June 10th. And so there isn't a master plan committee, but ideally there will be a master plan, what did you say? Master plan implementation committee.
Right.
And so that is down the road, and whether that's a select board committee or that'll be a select board committee, yes.
I think it's
I
you
think it's
were part of your
board.
discussion. I think you guys have
putting it on the
to
list.
make decisions there.
As well as the communication committee.
That's already on the list.
I'll talk regarding that in my updates.
Excellent.
I know that's a question of me.
And so I think those were my only questions. Let me just, look, those were my only questions or comments.
Okay.
And thank you. Did you make it big, Amanda? I love it. Thank you. I really appreciate the big chart. Gives me happiness.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions.
So I'll entertain a motion. I think we have to
Thanks
use,
for showing up, she's reading all of
She's using the little one because she has younger eyes.
Yeah,
Where's
In a
the big
couple
one?
years,
I
she'll-
didn't know
it's
there
in
was
the
a big
front.
one.
It's in them.
Okay,
yeah.
It's in them.
it's just a rookie move here. Don't give me that much credit.
It's in the, here.
Thank
in
you.
the secret
Oh, much
compartment.
better, yes.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the motion has to include the word yellow, I think.
It's in the agenda back.
It's
if you
in
want
the
to finish
agenda.
it.
Excellent.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the appointments and reappointments to various boards and committees as outlined.
In yellow for the
In yellow.
period beginning.
Yellow for the period beginning, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh,
July 1. It's on the second set.
July 1, 2025 to
Perfect.
June 30th, 2026. Oh, sorry.
July 1. that's good.
Effective July.
Effective July 1, 2025.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the one thing before we move on, I just want to tell people that we have vacancies. Jim was right when he said that volunteers were the foundation of the town, and that's completely true. And we currently have vacancies in these following committees. The Aid to Elderly and Disabled Taxation Fund, we need 3 members. Conservation Committee needs a member. Design Review Board needs a full member. The Energy Committee needs 2 members and 1 associate member, and that's, in this day and age, that's really important work. Historical Commission does such important work for our community, needs 2 members. The Norfolk Cultural Council is at their minimum, but they always accept new people, and there's a Southwest Advisory Planning Committee that needs 1 full member. So please consider participating in the volunteer work for the town. We value our volunteers, and they really do make a big difference, so thank you. So going on to surge contracts, Justin.
So this is the season, as you know, you guys have been handling a few surge contracts. So the next awards are for supplies, office supplies, DPW supplies, and paper. So I think we've addressed this. We're part of a collaborative, so it's collaborative pricing for all the communities that are part of this regionalized procurement service. So we recommend awarding these surge contracts.
Any questions? Any questions? I don't have any questions. I'll take a motion.
Got to read them all individually.
No, I would just say approve them as listed in the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the surge contracts for the following, or for the companies listed in the agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Number 8, we're done. Number 9.
9,
Oh, that's the new.
yeah, just for a general heads up for the select board. This item is regarding a letter of intent for a solar power purchase agreement, and what we have is with a potential agreement with Select Energy. You received a revised version. I wanted to put the letter of intent in the packet so you saw what we were negotiating, but we were discussing with Select a different letter of intent. There was some thoughts that I had, and I worked with town council to ensure we gave a revised version of the letter of intent. They agreed to our changes, so it's good. Just context of what a letter of intent is. A letter of intent is just a good faith agreement by the town and Select to pursue a PPA. It does not bind you, but they utilize this as part of their next steps to do interconnection agreements with the state, et cetera. And the most important thing with this letter of intent is trying to put us in the queue for a new Smart 3.0 incentive. This incentive is much more favorable than what was in place before. And if you remember, the board members, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, I had mentioned that the town, because we worked so quickly on our previous PPA, we got in a more favorable block that is going to save the town $100,000 more funds. So the reason why I'm recommending this letter of intent, even though we don't have some of the data that I typically like to give when we did this last, I gave you a presentation from Select outlining what the potential savings are, et cetera. We don't have that information yet because the Smart 3.0 incentive is still being worked on by the state. But I don't want us to wait because what we've heard and what we think is it's going to be oversubscribed. This incentive is even more beneficial than what we had access to before. So what I want to do is get us in the queue, at least get the letter of intent in place for them to do the work to put us in the queue, and then Select will come back and give you more of a presentation of what it actually looks like, what potential savings are, et cetera. The savings are going to be substantial. Our last PPA with Select, the town's going to save over $500,000 because of the PPA we did. This incentive is more than that, what we think. So there's not as much information as I typically do, but I'm recommending that you authorize the town administrator to execute a letter of intent based on, conditions in the letter of intent, which requires school approval, et cetera. But at least it gets us in the queue, and I think it will hopefully let us get into that first block grant and get as much money as possible.
Grant is one of my favorite words, so the free money thing is excellent.
Or incentive, let me say incentive.
Incentive.
Because, the town is paying, when I say incentive, with that incentive, we pay a lower cost per our energy usage. So incentive, I'm sorry, I said grant.
Well, I'm excited to save the town money, and anything to that end is definitely I'm in full support of. I don't have any questions. Do you have any questions? Questions?
Nope.
Nope.
I guess my only other question would be, are there other buildings, town buildings, that we can install solar on that would help us in addition to the school?
No, I think our new facilities director is probably going to take a look at those options. We did the police station recently. We looked at the fire station, but the logistics didn't work financially for us. So we're always looking at other opportunities. We're obviously gonna look at the existing array on the school as well. We got a Green Communities grant for that for $100,000. We just need to do a little more work regarding that. So we'll look at that array, and that the town owns that array. So we're always looking, I would say. And our facilities director will take that work on. Something for you all to know is this year too, is the town, we've had great facilities directors who try to utilize, contracts to lower our energy rates. We had a contract that was like 9 cents for usage. Our contract's up this year in December, so the town administrator and the facility director is going to come to you with a new contract for electricity usage coming, the next few months too, just to put it on our radar. But we're always looking to try to save some funds on behalf of the town. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I will entertain a motion.
Would you like to make the motion, or would you like me to make it?
You can make it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the preliminary letter of intent agreement for Solar Select Energy.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Process for hiring a new town administrator. Kelly?
So what I would like to do, if you all are in agreement, is there are 3 companies that Justin had mentioned in our previous meeting, MRI, Paradigm, and the Collins Center. What I think would be beneficial is to have them come in and present to you all at the July meeting. And then from there, we'll have quotes from them as well. And from there, we can kind of go through and see which company you would feel comfortable moving forward with after they give some sort of a presentation of what they can offer.
That sounds great. Any questions? I think the sooner, that's excellent. I think that's fabulous. So we'll put them on the July agenda. May I just ask?
Can I
yes.
and I know Kelly will be very helpful as part of this if you go that route, right? One, we realized the figure that I gave you, I reached out to a couple of them, is actually a little bit lower because that figure included a lot more things that possibly were not. So we're looking at the $7,000 to $9,000 range, so that's good. But one thing that I would recommend, and I know Kelly will help facilitate, is because of the timing, there are a few communities that are going after town administrators at this period, is what I would say for the July meeting. I would be prepared to talk about what your vision and what you expect for them, right? She'll make sure you have quotes in front of you, but you might want to make a decision fairly quickly on that so you can then start the process a little quicker, because if you wait, let's say you have them bring them in and then you wait, you're going to just be delaying, particularly if you don't have another meeting till August. you're going to be delaying having a full-time town administrator for some time. So I would probably, if that's the route you want to go, have your questions, be ready, but make a decision that evening, potentially. So she'll make sure you have the information you need.
So we should have, for our homework then, consider our vision of what the new town administrator would be like, and also have what we would expect from this group, what process would we expect from the group? Okay.
Maybe if you can get the information to us a little.
Absolutely.
Before the packet, you know, so.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
if they can send me some sort of like preliminary information or something
Yep.
like that that you can all review ahead of the meeting.
Awesome. And I was going to ask, just to have a rough idea of the timeline, like when is the soonest we would have somebody in place?
Oh, well, I think it depends on when, if ideally, you know, like Justin said, you can decide which firm you want to go with at the next meeting. And then the next day we can work on the posting.
I'm just, I
Yeah.
want to wrap my head around a timeline. Like, is
I
it
would
going to be
s-
September? Is,
That would be the earliest, I would say.
Yeah, that might be a little.
They're gonna lay- they're
I'd
gonna
say
lay it
probably,
out
like,
for you.
Yeah.
they'll lay it,
They're going to
okay.
lay it out for you based on what they're seeing with the market and saying, once they figure out, all right, you guys might not have X, you might want to focus on, you might want to do a meet and greet with someone, they'll be able to put that together and give you a timeline of what to expect.
I think if you set your if you're looking for expectations, I think that a reasonable expectation may be an October, November timeframe.
Probably.
You know, I think that that's probably more realistic. But, you know, hopefully we can.
I think no matter what, it's going to be tough because most of the ones that probably get hired want to start in July 1st. Why would there be,
Necessarily.
the unemployed ones might be, you know, I mean, most of them signed a contract.
Well, sure, yeah. But the contract.
No, they're clamoring to come to Norfolk.
Contracts
Oh, yeah.
don't necessarily coincide with the fiscal years.
Yeah.
In other communities I've been in, it really just, they typically fall in line with whenever the initial contract was established. So that's been my experience, that I've seen how some contracts have worked. But I know that some do coincide with the fiscal year,
Yeah.
but it doesn't always have to work that way.
Honestly, I really think we need a meeting in July, and I don't want to meet in July because I would like to enjoy my summer as well, but I think that we have so many pressing things that we need to do.
The building's air conditioned, so.
It's not the beach, but you know, it is what it is. And the search, I think we need to, I don't think we can wait until August if we want to get somebody in.
No, originally we were planning to meet in July, I believe so, yeah.
Yes, there is a meeting in July.
But I was going to actually suggest in the discussion time, I was going to suggest, usually we have a working meeting in the summertime that's off-site, like we meet in the library and we just like set our goals and those kinds of things. It's kind of hard to set your goals without a town administrator, but I think that we still need to have that working meeting to get where we don't have this kind of an agenda, but where we figure out our budget process, how are we going to look at the budget, what is that going to go like, and have the interim town administrator help us come up with the strategy and the timeline and the plan. And so I do think we should have like a 2 or 3 hour meeting with the interim person. It's a posted meeting, but it's a working meeting. It's not going to be agendas and all of that, but where we do the work of saying, what is the plan going to be? How is it going to look? And do that work so that we all have a shared understanding and an agreement about what we think are good next steps for us. So I think that is
Because if we don't hire someone until November, we're basically, you know, a third of the way through the fiscal year at that point, and
it's too late.
It's too late.
So we have to, so I was going to suggest we have a working meeting in July with the interim town administrator to figure out our budget plan, like how are we going to do this work? And I have some ideas to bring to the group, but how are we going to do this work? And I can share, and you can share, and we can come up with, and leave that meeting with, this is our plan, this is the timeline, this is how we're going to do this.
Right, but that doesn't help with meeting the firm and.
No, that's separate.
Right.
No.
So we should do that in July as well, though.
I think
So
we'll
are you saying you want to meet earlier than July? I think July 14th is the next
I think it's July 14th, right,
meeting.
Amanda?
So are you saying you want to try and meet the firms earlier than July 14th?
Well, I definitely think we'd have to have 2 meetings in July, because we can't put the meeting off till August, and that would delay more.
But so if we meet on July 14th, and we can meet earlier, I'm not at all opposed to that. We can meet on July 14th and be prepared that day to approve it that day. That might be soon enough, or maybe we want to move it up a week and meet sooner.
I don't think, I mean,
So-
I think that's fine.
And then
The goal of
have-
that meeting is to meet the search firms, and then we can have a separate meeting, like you suggested, a working meeting,
Oh,
to
I think-
outline the
yes.
goals.
Yeah.
and
The financial goals and get the budget process that's going to be different than this year than it's ever been, to figure out what that looks like together. And at the same time, some of the search committee work is going to happen with Kelly and me being taking point person, so we can kind of, at least last time we did this, I worked with the HR, we called through, and the firm, they gave us resumes, we called through resumes, interviewed, I think we interviewed like 10 people, we narrowed it down to 3, and then we brought those 3 or 4 people to the board to interview.
I feel that all 3 of the selectmen, though, should be getting the resumes and each picking out, maybe each pick out 3, then have I feel if you pick them out and bring them to us, we didn't get any input on who the person was of that 3. If you had 10 and you picked out 3 and brought them to us, we didn't have the opportunity to pick out of the other 7.
That's true, but it takes, the process took a long, it was many hours and hours and hours of interviewing folks. So the process was long, and the firm will give us the short list.
Right, yeah.
They'll come up with the short list.
Right.
I don't know, it's a lot of hours. You were going to say something?
Well, I mean, I guess an alternate idea, another suggestion could be is I can go through and give you my suggestions based on my professional experience, and see if you want to do it that way, rather than just bringing you a final 3. Maybe it's a final 5 or a top 5 or something like that, because interviews take a very, very, very long time. And
I don't think it's the interview that Kevin's asking about. I think it's
The
just
resume.
it's just reviewing the resumes.
just to have input into that, because there might be a candidate that sticks out to Kevin that might not resonate with you.
So who we should interview in that team, so have everybody look at the resumes and say, interview these folks if they're available.
We could do it
That's
that
fair.
way and have you all review the resumes.
Yep.
And then I can do like not a generic, but like I can do an initial phone interview or an initial interview to try and, because again, like, I don't know if it's necessarily productive to have you all doing interviews with 10 candidates. I don't know if that's productive, but if you're all picking
You're not going to
resumes.
find it anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We interviewed all those people. We weren't, our goal wasn't to narrow it down to 3. The goal was to come up with the finalists, and there were only 3 we felt good about bringing to the
Yeah.
team. So that was, it ended up being 3.
Right.
And that's just what it was. So
Yeah,
I think.
we're paying the search firm to do that for us, right?
Yep.
Is to give us the good quality candidates.
Hopefully.
So by the time they get to us, hopefully, we might even agree on the candidates that we want to interview. And then we interview them at one of our select board meetings, right? In front
Yeah,
of the public.
what I did is I met with Scott 2 or 3 evenings, I drove from work, we interviewed 2 or 3 people a day for quite a long time, and then we narrowed it down to the finalists, and then those people came to the board, and the board interviews them, like the board makes a decision, not one person, or not,
Yeah. Then your finalists are interviewed in a public meeting.
which was intimidating to me, because these are real people with real lives, and to interview them and discuss it live on camera. But I felt proud of us, but it's interesting. So we're saying, I think, that we're going to go ahead with the July 14th meeting. feel free to push back if you feel differently. The July 14th meeting to interview and make a decision on the firm so we can move that quickly forward. And then and separately, we are going to set up with the interim town committee a meeting in July it'll be a public meetings, but it'll, usually nobody comes to those working meetings and we just work. But talking about what do we think is a good process for the budget review. And I have some ideas, but we can work that out as a group.
Yeah.
Does that feel okay?
That's fine.
And so then we'll stick with our regular August meeting, but if it feels like we need another one in August, then we'll schedule it, because I agree with you, we can't be behind on this. I think we'll know more after our working meeting, where we're at with our timeline.
Yes.
Okay, so are we in a good place there? Excellent. And then that goes to general updates from our town administrator.
Alrighty. I'm just going to first start with budget updates. I wanted to, so in full disclosure, I wasn't as prepared to go into detail in regards to like the question or the query about prison mitigation funds. Typically, and I want to say why. Typically, as part of our budget process, the way the budget process works at the state level, the governor gives their proposal, the House has a budget, the Senate has a version of the budget, and then it has to go to conference committee. And conference committee works out all the differences that are based on all these various budgets, because all of these budgets are different. And I'll outline a couple of things there. And for example, I don't give information to the board about the earmarks that are part of these budgets because it's not guaranteed until the conference committee work is done. So the prison mitigation funds, it's likely we're not going to get prison mitigation funds. I mean, it's more than likely that we're not going to get.
Was that approved, was that in our budget?
Yes. And so what I would tell you is to outline how I would look at this as part of our budget process and part of our budget update is what looks like is going to occur. And also, when we do our budget, we give the governor's version of the budget, right? And typically in the last few budgets, the budget number has increased. And what we've done as part of the fall town meeting, we've allocated additional funding, usually to the schools. We don't do it on the town end of things. But with that reduction of prison mitigation funds, part of what I was going to discuss as part of a budget update as we got closer here was how do we address that lack of funding? And it's going to be around $200,000 or so. And so this is not my call, but I want to put this on the radar for the board. What looks like what is going to happen is there's going to be some additional revenue probably in the conference committee version of the budget. The governor's budget had little less money in Chapter 70 funds and more for unrestricted government aid than the House budget. And so the schools are potentially looking like they will get additional Chapter 70 aid around $50,000 because as part of this process too, there's increased assessment charges. So I know schools have mentioned they're going to get $100,000 of additional Chapter 70 money. Yes, but there's estimated charges that go along with that too, right? And I'll provide a memo for the board so you have this codified moving forward. My suggestion would be if we're taking a reduction of $200,000, I would not allocate the additional funds in the fall of the additional Chapter 70 funds. I don't necessarily think that's the right course of action for us. Once again, that's the board's decision. That's in collaboration with the schools. But that's a way to mitigate the loss of funding of the prison mitigation funds. There's also another, as we look at positions,
So
we don't fill that position.
100% of the mitigation funds going to the schools now?
No. So, and that's a good question. That's the reason I'm glad you had that question. As part of our revenue process, prison mitigation funds is part of our overall revenue, right? And so how I look at it is if you think of it 50-50. If it's $200,000, 50-50 on both sides, right? Because that allocation is getting allocated to the schools as part of our overall allocation of funds. So how we look at it is do a 50-50 sort of understanding, hey, 50% of the cut has to be realized by schools and 50% by the town. We generally give more than 50% to schools, But we can't take that money from KP. We can't take that from Tri-County. The only school that we can actually affect is MPS because that allocation is totally from our end, right? So that's how I would approach it. So if it's a $200,000 cut and we're getting $50,000 of additional revenue, I wouldn't allocate that additional $50,000, and then you have to find equitable cuts or decisions to realize that we're not getting that $200,000. But that is something that I would say that was part of a plan. It's not that, the key thing is part of decisions that I made, I think we were prepared for that. So definitely when you had mentioned it, I don't want people to think, especially the community, that we didn't realize that was occurring. This is how I would address it, and I wouldn't allocate the additional funds in the fall. Along with some other decisions.
I'm assuming the school's already planning for that scenario, given
Oh, yeah.
that the shelter is closing. So that was not going to be a reoccurring stream of revenue for them.
Well, no, the mitigation money is from the prison mitigation. It wasn't from
Oh,
anything
not
to do with the
not
shelter.
From the
Yeah.
shelter, okay, just the, okay.
Yeah.
But it's always sort of hit or miss how much we get or
We've had high years, we've had low
wrestle with
years.
should we put it in the budget or not, because sometimes it's been high and sometimes it's been low. We thought this year we were being conservative and we weren't conservative enough.
That was one of the
That's
concerns, by
a
the way.
big
that we
cut.
brought up.
Is there a reason for that?
I texted with Senator Roush, and she said that they tried to get it in the budget, and it just didn't go through. So I was going to reach out to her for next year to say, when does this process start? Help me understand what we need to do, because this year, zero is pretty low. It's bad. So I think Representative Vaughn did put an amendment in for the prison mitigation money, but didn't have a cosigner, and it didn't go through at the House level, and at the Senate level, it didn't go through as well. So I was going to reach out to the senator and ask her to walk me through the process to see if there's anything we can do next year to work on that number. But so far, this year it was not successful, so.
Okay.
So Ingrid's going to be delighted to hear that.
No, she's not going to be, because.
But Justin, you did say during one of our meetings that there was another earmark that you felt good about. Is that no longer the case? And I don't remember which one that was, I'm sorry.
No, good question. I feel generally good about all our earmarks. I don't like to count on earmarks, especially until it goes to the conference committee. But in terms of what we've secured in language so far, it's actually more than we've had it. From my understanding of looking at it, more than we've ever had. We've been very successful. This year we have, I have it actually. We have $25,000 for emergency medical services, patient management, and transfer equipment. So that's for fire. We have $35,000 for emergency access poles and external defibrillators at the athletic field. We have $15,000 for the senior center parking lot project. But then we also have an additional $100,000 in a supplemental bill for the senior center parking lot, which would largely take this completely off our, town and for the most part. So we've been very successful on that. In terms of operating budget-wise, not anything that's going to really be too impactful for us. The one thing that you all will probably keep on your mind is the economic bond bill, which included $1.5 million potentially for schools, and it's broadly labeled, so how you utilize that, it's a good opportunity, and there's $300,000 for fire EMS services as well. Those earmarks potentially could be utilized operationally. So those are the ones that would definitely.
And when do they go through conference committee work?
The economic bond bill is a different one. Those are the ones I just mentioned. That's a little bit ways out. You want to stay in contact with Rep. Vaughn and Senator Roush. But in terms of conference committee, they're actually working through the budget now in conference committee. That's why generally we don't talk about the budget till they get through there, and it's sometimes they've pushed past July, but I think they're making good progress. So it should be the end of this month, July, that maybe they have a resolution on the state side for the fiscal year 26 budget.
Maybe next year we should leave it out of our budget.
Well, I think that's a strong thing to consider,
Yeah.
because if we can't count on it, to have it in the budget is derailing. So I think that's something we'll definitely need to consider.
one of the notes that I had, and I revisit this, and, as part of the budget, look, we have tough decision on revenue, and I mentioned specifically that some of these revenue items, I don't necessarily know if I would feel comfortable continuing them, or we pushed them a little bit, we increased them more than what I felt comfortable with. I definitely think that's a discussion item for the next budget. I don't know if I would include the prison mitigation funds.
No, I mean, why put it in the budget and not have it? Because then all of a sudden, now we got to tell schools they just lost 100,000.
Yeah, so it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
Extra money, I'm sure any department can easily absorb and spend. It's much easier to spend it than cut it.
I think we're good there. No other questions regarding that. Transition items. Just so the board is aware, I'm working on a memo that the next town administrator will have of outstanding projects, upcoming deadlines. Kelly will have it. I will make sure you all get that as well, so you know what's going on. You guys already know what's going on, but I want to make sure you have that information as well. I am submitting to the EPA our requests for the earmarked funds for the town center sewer. I wanted to get that off the plate with me and not have that put on your next town administrator. So I'll be working with Rich to make sure that's submitted by Monday, because I'd like to get that out the door. I think we're in a really good spot. I've been working with Kelly to make sure she's up to date with what's going on as well. So I think, in terms of the high-level big projects, you guys will have a memo, and I think we've wrapped up a good amount there. So I think you're going to be in good stead with Mike coming on board in July. And I have had a conversation with him too, just give him a heads up, and he's excited to get to work with you all. So transition-wise, we're in good shape.
Excellent. Excellent. So we'll at some point, maybe this is premature, but at some point we'll need to get together a date where Mike is available and the three of us are available for a few hours, right? Where we can do that working meeting on the budget in July, sometime in July.
Yep.
Will he be at the July
14th, yeah.
July 14th meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yep, no questions, transition stuff already. And then last, if you guys will just allow me to say, I just want to quickly say a quick thank you to the community. I wrote it down. It's better for me in this manner, so I'll be very quick. I just want to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation for the opportunity to serve as Norfolk's town administrator. It has been an absolute pleasure working with this community, the select board, and the fine staff we have over these past couple of years. Norfolk is a wonderful community with special people in it. I will always have an affinity for this community and the organization. I just want to sincerely thank the Select Board for giving me the opportunity to serve in this role. In particular, I'd like to thank Anita Mecklenburg, Kevin Kalka, and Jim Lehan for the collaboration, because I worked with them in their respective roles as chair of the Select Board. And although I haven't worked with Kevin and Thais for as long, I do appreciate the time we have spent as well. There's a lot of work that goes into these roles and a lot of work behind the scenes. So I've spent a lot of time with all of you, and I really appreciate that work. I appreciate your trust in the work that I've done and just collaboration. It means a lot to me. I could take quite some time to run through a list of names of people within the community that I appreciate, but that would take a significant amount of time, so I'm not going to do that.
Thank you.
I know that was for you, Kevin.
Yeah.
But I do want to say a general thank you to members of our community that I've gotten to know over the years who volunteer their time to make it a better place for everyone. We've mentioned it before, how important volunteers giving their time to better serve a community are important. I value them, and I appreciated getting to know them and work with them. So thank you. And while I did say I'm not going to run through a whole list of names, I am appreciative and I'd like to give a specific thank you to a few people. I want to give a specific thank you to my staff in the Select Board office, particularly Judith and Amanda, who've been with me since I've been here, and you guys were tremendous, and I really appreciate the work that you do there. I want to specifically also say Kate O'Brien and Kelly King. Collectively, many people aren't aware of the work that we do in our office. But I've worked with you guys firsthand, and I know the work that you guys have put into it. I really appreciate it. I would not have been able to do what I do without you guys, so thank you. I want to quickly say thank you to people like Donna Jones, who apropos is here. She didn't know I was going to say that. Donna Jones and Andrew at NCTV, right? Some of these people are unheralded for the work that they do. Their passion for this community and their commitment to ensuring that we provide as much access to the workings of government as possible have always been greatly appreciated by me. And I personally, and I am biased even though I'm leaving, I think we have the best cable access group in the state. here.
Amen. We totally do.
And finally, I want to thank the staff of within the town. Norfolk is extremely fortunate to have the employees that we have working for the community. It's a fantastic group that generally cares about this community, and for me, it's been an absolute privilege working with you all. And it's not a goodbye; it's a see you later. So thank you for all of you all. This has been a great privilege to serve as your town administrator. So thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, this is where I talk for an hour, right? Is that right?
No, not at all.
So before I say something, I do want to say that a big thank you to community organizers. It was an amazing event. The rain didn't hold people off, and so it was quite amazing as always. And thank you for bringing our community together in such a positive way. And the fireworks were rescheduled from Saturday night due to the weather to tomorrow night. So Wednesday night, Freeman Kennedy School, there'll be food trucks there and the community can gather once again. So please join us. I'll be there. I'm bringing my grandson. You can see how adorable he is. And join us for fireworks tomorrow night. And any other things? And I'm going to talk about Justin. So Justin came, I was chair, brand new chair. I was my first time ever being chair, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. He was brought such positive energy to our work, and he's not only smart, he's like intentional, strategic, like he's really thoughtful about the things that he does. But what ends up being the remarkable thing, and the thing that will always stay with me, and I'm not going to look at you or I'll be crying twice in one meeting, is that his kindness. He genuinely cares about the people that he's working with. You listen to him talk about his staff, and he talks about them with caring, and in a way that really means so very much. And so thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your friendship. I'm not looking at you. Thank you for your friendship, and you will definitely be missed, but I wish the best to you and your family.
Thank you, Anita. I'm gonna miss you guys too.
I'm not gonna look at you anymore. Do you wanna?
No, I just want to say, I haven't had the pleasure of working with Justin for very long, but he definitely said, my door's open if you have questions, I'm here. I appreciate the brief time we spent together. I obviously see the commitment that you have to the town of Norfolk, and it's going to be difficult to replace you. So, we're wishing you well, but we obviously are going to feel that loss. So, but good luck in your new position, your new role.
Thank you, Thais.
Oh, I got a speech prepared here. Let me look through. Thank you. Yeah.
That's perfect, Kevin. There we go.
And then we haven't done the warrants or the minutes. We have to do warrants and minutes.
Okay. Can we do the minutes or?
Both. Let's do both. Let's do the warrants. How about this? Will somebody make a motion to approve the warrants as they're listed in the agenda?
I will.
So moved. Say so moved.
So moved. Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Now this one's yours, Kevin.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting minutes of April 29, 2025 and May 13, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then now, after this set of minutes, you'll start doing the, because you're the clerk now, so the minutes starting from here on out that'll be turned over to Thais because she's taking over as clerk. All right, I need a motion to adjourn if everybody's okay with that.
I'd like to make a discussion about it.
Okay, you want to, we can talk for a little while. I have some stories I can tell you.
I'd like make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.